So I grew up in a Christian home. From the minute I was born, I can remember my parents always took us to church. I was one of 7 kids, and we went to church on Sunday twice every single week, and sometimes during the week. And so I feel like if you grow up in the church from a young age, you kind of don't get the real picture of what it's like to come from not being involved in church to being involved in church, because it's just part of your life. And I really didn't understand what it meant to be a follower of Jesus. So my childhood was more of trying to get out of going to church than actually going to church. As I got older, I realized I felt like I didn't really want any part of the church, so I just kind of veered away from that and went on my own path. I just kind of went and did my own thing, didn't bother going to church or anything. As I got older and then got married and had my son, I realized that I felt like something was totally missing, and I started going back to church. I think it was at that point in time where I really realized like what Jesus meant in my life. Before, it was just like the motions that I was going through, and I really didn't get any deep feelings on exactly what I was called to do, or how much God really, really meant in my life. I continued to go in and out of church, never really finding the right church, always kind of looking for an excuse that this church wasn't good enough or that church wasn't good enough. And then I ended up coming to Catalyst, where a friend of mine, we had talked about finding a new church, and there was like all these signs in Middletown for this church. We should go there. And we ended up going there. And like I kind of knew as soon as I went there that this is the church that I wanted to be at. And like that feeling has only grown like more and more every single time that I've been going. The more that I go, the more I realize that this is the place that I should be at. On July 17th, 2013, it was a regular day like any other day. I had worked for myself, so I had to go out and do some work for myself in the morning, and then I had also worked for a construction company. We went to the construction site, which I had been on the day before. We did a little work there, and we were digging to put a curb in next to a retaining wall, and at some point during that time, the wall fell on me, crushing me. I really don't have any recollection of the accident. The only thing I could say is from what people have told me that were there, the wall fell on me, and he was the only other one there at the time. And I was pinned under the blocks, and somehow he got the blocks off of me, and he called for the ambulance, called 911. They had him do CPR on me while I was on the ground, while they were waiting for the ambulance. When the ambulance got there, I was going in and out of cardiac arrest, I guess. They had to bring me back a couple of times. Part of the deal was that apparently they sent the Lifestar helicopter to pick me up, and from what my sister had told me, with Lifestar helicopter, they'll fly out to the scene to pick you up. If they think you're not going to survive the accident, they won't go to the scene and get you. They'll go to the local hospital, and the ambulance will bring you there. And then if you're still alive at that point in time, then they'll pick you up from there. So apparently they told the Lifestar helicopter he's probably not going to make it. So they sent the helicopter to the Middletown hospital in Meriden. I was still alive at that time. They rolled me into the ER, through the back of the ER, into the helicopter, and then they brought me to Hartford Hospital from there. Everything that happened to me after that is for probably 3 weeks after that. I was in a coma. They put me in a coma. So all the surgeries and, the fact that they had brought my family and told him that they had told him he's probably not going to make it through the night. If he does, he will probably never walk or never talk again. I had spinal cord damage and my neck was broken. My trachea was torn. Half of my rib cage was crushed, and I had some lung issues. The reason that they figured I would never walk is because of the break in my neck and how my spinal cord was, and with my trachea being torn, and I had some issues with my vocal cords that I probably would never talk again after that. The first thing I remember is waking up. I had no idea where I was. My son and his mom were there, and the doctors were there, and I couldn't speak at all. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. I didn't feel any pain because they have you on so much medication. You feel no pain at all, but nothing moved. My arms didn't move. My head didn't move. Nothing moved. And I kind of mumbled to them, like, "What? Where am I?" And they explained to me I was in the hospital, and then I said, "What happened?" And they said, "A wall fell on you." And then at that point I was like, who's paying my bills? And they were like, you're okay, you'll be all right. And then I went back to sleep for a couple of days. Explaining to somebody what it's like to be in ICU would be like a woman trying to explain to a man what it's like to give birth. Unless you go through it, there's no way a guy will ever understand what it's like for a woman to give birth. And being hooked up to all those machines, I was tube fed. I was on a ventilator. They're breathing for you. You have tubes you have tubes going into your neck to pump air into you so you can breathe. They have tubes going in so they can feed you. You have tubes going in your mouth, tubes going in your nose. And you just lay there, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. Your life goes from being my life, from going wide open, always doing everything, always involved in everything, to completely stopping. The only thing you can think about is whether you're going to live or not. I remember being in the hospital, and you think about, I'm probably never going to walk again. I'm probably never going to be able to. You literally just can't. I can't walk out to my car. I couldn't go out to eat. It's over for you. But at that point, I knew that there was always a calm and a peace with me, knowing if I totally knew that if I didn't make it through that deal and I didn't live, that I was totally fine with that. Like, I knew where I was going. I knew that where I was going from there was going to be way better than where I was, and I knew that my family, that I would see them again someday. For the next year, the struggle was pretty intense, some of the stuff that you have to go through from there. But I never doubted that God had taken care of me, and no matter what had happened that day, I would have been totally fine with it. I'm not a person that likes to cry about what they're going through, or I'm not a big complainer. I don't think I am, at least. But when you go through something like that in your life, it's never going to be the same. There's a different level of normalcy after you go through that. I had to learn to walk all over again, and my walking and stuff is good. But I have some issues with my right arm. My right arm is in pain all the time. My breathing is very limited. They had to take out my upper right lobe. There's restriction in my airway, which will always be there. So on a day-to-day basis, I struggle, whereas I look normal, or somewhat normal, and And if you met me, you would probably never know that I went through that. There is still a lot of medical issues that go along with that. After I did all my therapies, and I did those for over a year after my injury, I've tried every kind of medical procedure they have to fix some of the stuff that's going on. It's probably at the point where that stuff's just going to be the way it is. So on a day-to-day basis, I struggle with my breathing and some of the pain that goes on in my body from the injuries. Once your therapies end and you go through all the therapy stuff, you tell your doctors that you still have pain, all they want to do is put you on a bunch of medication. And for all the surgeries and everything I went through, I needed to be on that medication. But it was a struggle when I finally got out of the hospital. You have to take these pain medications. You literally will not make it through the day. So I was on them for a while, and then you get to a point where they don't work as good, and you can watch any TV show on TV now, and they'll tell you all about pain meds and what they do you, and they're 100% right. That's exactly what they do. They curb the pain in the beginning, and it's fine, but then after a while, they don't work as good, and you continue to take them. And I got to a point where, I so prayed about, if God could just take this pain away from me or get me off that medication. And I just felt like God was telling me, you're either going to have to stay on these pain meds or you're going to have to live with the pain for now. And went through all my doctors and told me that, and they were like, okay, if you want to try doing that, that's up to you. I stopped taking all the pain medications. So I deal with that. I deal with that pain on a regular basis. But for me, it's way better than being addicted to the pain medications. You've probably heard this before, and it's like one of my favorite sayings that I always hear people say, that God will never bring you through anything that you can't handle, and I completely disagree with that. This injury that I went through was way more than I could handle, and I needed God to bring me through that. It was not something I could handle on my own. There's no way that if I didn't have God in my life that I would have been able to handle that. Not just the injury and that your life changes, the people around you are also affected by what happens to you. My mom will be 89 years old in May. Healthy, comes driving up my driveway, baking me cookies still, and here's a lady who lost her husband 28 years ago. My oldest brother died of a heart attack. She went through that. My sister, Priscilla, died of kidney failure. She had medical issues. And then she had to come to the hospital when I was there and stand there and watch me go through all that. And her faith never wavered one single bit during any of that. She never ever wavered her faith at all. And part of my story is, I'm explaining some of the stuff that I went through, but I can't imagine what it's like for a mother to have to lose two of her kids, her husband, and then she had to go through the stuff that she went through with me. It was extremely hard on my son, and it was a lot for him to go through also. And I'm thankful that we had Catalyst Church, and that he was grounded in the church, because I know that meant a big difference to him, to be able to have Catalyst when he was going through that with me. He literally laid on that windowsill in my bedroom in that hospital every night. Slept there. through this whole deal, I just was never angry with God. I always knew that however it would turn out, that God would take care of me. I never doubted that God wasn't with me during this. I always knew that however I ended up is where God would want me to be, whether I was going to be, there was times where I would have been I could have been in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, and I just felt like if that's where I ended up, then God would have had a plan for me to be in that wheelchair. I'm extremely grateful that I'm able to walk into Catalyst and be able to stand at the door with the Catalyst kids and to help out and do things at the church. But I just feel like God would want me to serve no matter how far He brought me, and I'm extremely happy that He brought me this far. I know one of the big things that helped me when I was in the rehab hospital, my son's mom and my son would bring me, they would bring me CDs from the music from Catalyst Church, and that was amazing for me when I was in the hospital. And then when I was able to get out and actually come here and listen to praise and worship, and especially hear Lauren sing that stuff, it was amazing for me. I remember coming out here after one of the services and telling her, like you have no idea how great that is for me to hear you sing. She had no clue what I was talking about, but I was just like, when I was in the hospital, I used to listen to those songs, and then when you sing them, it was really, really good. I'm extremely grateful for where I am. Thankful that God has brought me this far. I feel like He's going to bring me farther. I remember sitting in ICU at Gaylord and watching the nurses. I would watch them walk from the parking lot in, like for their shift. And I'd be like, how do they do that? Like, I couldn't move. Like, how do they actually get up and walk? Like, they literally had people helping me up, getting me to a walker just to move my legs a little. And I'm thinking, I used to be able to just walk across the parking lot, jump in my truck and leave. I used to, and now I go to Gaylord, like I'm on like committee and stuff there. I park in that same parking lot when I'm walking in, I'm like, this is exactly what it feels like. I feel to walk into the building again. One of the biggest blessings is that when I meet new people, they have no idea what I've been through. The other part of that is when I meet people, they don't have any idea what I'm going through. So I'm grateful that God gives me the ability to be able to breathe every day and walk every day and come to Catalyst Church. I'm super, super grateful for how far God has brought me.